We're now broadcasting on Zoom. Holy moly. We got two things to go at once. That's unusual.
Wow.
Normally we're scrambling
it's a record
around.
I would be remiss if I didn't take this moment to say the power of the cloud.
Yeah.
And that's me
Yes,
done.
indeed.
See you later.
Look at us all. It's like the Brady Bunch all over the screen. So I've got us in gallery view. I don't know what view you guys are looking at. We're in gallery view through Facebook Live. We've got Jeff. We've got Hannah. We've got Nicole. We've got Elliot. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Not
To a
at
bit of
all.
reality.
No. Yeah.
How's the recovery been? I know, Elliot, you've been eating KFC.
It's starting to show already, isn't it? That's all I ever need to recover.
You mentioned your Friday was pretty productive. What did you get up to, mate?
I laid on the couch. It was fantastic, to be perfectly honest with you. KFC, couch, and my cat. It was everything a man could dream of. And no one spoke to me for hours.
The dream.
Well, it was a rather large night on Thursday. There's Michelle. Michelle's attending. Michelle's just left a little chat message. Yes, we feel like we've just left you as well. It was a great night on Thursday night. We had an exceptional party. Nicole, what did you get up to on Friday? I know you're a little bit more productive than Elliot was.
A few of us got together afterwards because the theme was community, and so we regrouped with our community. We swapped a few notes and just chatted about what we loved best about it and how excited or bit cheated we feel about that it's in Sydney next year, which makes the mumcation a little bit harder.
Yes, we'll have to find some ways around that. I don't know what we're going to do there, but same goes for a few of us that are here in Sydney. But I know you delayed your trip back to Sydney so that you could organise that catch up. That's a bit different to previous years, is it not, Nicole?
We often will stay for the weekend so that, you're still in the place feeling the vibe of Xerocon before we go home. And again, because it is a mumcation and any excuse not to go home is a wonderful excuse.
Don't tell the kids.
Don't tell anyone. But this year, I guess we organised to meet up with people. Last year, we sort of accidentally met someone. One of our friends signed up with Receipt Bank, and so we spent the time with them discussing how to use it, traps for young players and other things like that. And we found that really valuable. So we thought, well, why not do it deliberately this time? And so we put our little shout out in a group and said, hey, anyone else keen to catch up with us? And there was a few and we had a little meeting. It was good.
Awesome. Very good. And Hannah, what did you get up
Yeah,
to
it was
on
good.
Friday? Oh, sorry, Jeff. Go on.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
I flew to Sydney, so I spent the weekend in Sydney. Went to Manly Beach, did the Coogee to Bondi walk on Sunday as well, which was nice. I think I needed that hike. I needed a bit of exercise after Xerocon, so I had a nice little touristy weekend in Sydney. It was great.
Shame we didn't turn on the weather for you. It was pretty windy here.
I know.
Sydney. It was windy coming back in on Friday afternoon. I think we were pretty lucky to get the flight in that we did because the weather picked up like something horrendous.
Yeah, definitely.
How'd you go, Jeff?
So,
what did you get up to on Friday?
Oh, I didn't do much. I went rock climbing. No.
For those that weren't at Xerocon, you might hold your leg up for us, Jeff, and just show everybody the new look that you are sporting for the second year.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
For those that weren't at Xerocon, what did you do, mate?
I ruptured my Achilles for the third time and had surgery on Monday, and was actually dreading going to Xerocon. Initially, that was my initial reaction is, oh, I don't want to deal with this. Every conversation is going to be saying what happened. I felt like an idiot. But in the end, everyone was trying to nick my scooter, including Alexi from Deer and several others. It seemed to be the best mode of transport at the show, and managed to pull it off. So it ended up being one of the best Xerocons ever, and it was good. But on Friday, I didn't do much. I got home and just put my feet up finally and relaxed and spent some time with my kids.
Nice.
I was just going to ask a question. Did you get some inside information from the Xero team that the main arena was so far away from where we were exhibiting? That's why you had the scooter.
No, when I knew that I was going to, well, I didn't even know whether or not I was going to make it to Xerocon, to be honest. I didn't know if I'd be cleared. Yeah, so the scooter idea was in true Rod Jury fashion. I thought everybody's so used to seeing Rod zipping around on his skateboard that the scooter, in fact, one of the security guards tried to stop me as I was entering the exhibition hall, and they said, "You can't bring that." And then they looked at my foot and they went, "Oh, I'm so sorry." They thought that I was being mischievous. Little did they know.
No, not you.
And everyone managed to keep me off with the half pipe, so I managed to not kill myself any further.
That did come up in advance. We were like, look, if there's anyone that's going to try and get on there, it's Rod and Jeffrey. How do we ensure that he doesn't? Is there anywhere we can make sure he knackers his ankle again before he comes?
People were encouraging me to do it.
We were.
They wanted to see it, but I was being smart.
So we've mentioned half pipes. We've mentioned the distance from the main arena to where we're exhibiting. What was the best part of the setup this year, the 2019 setup? What did we love most?
The stadium seating, where you could actually see, and the seats were comfy this year. It was wonderful. Hopefully we'll be having more of that. And you know, the fun bits were good, the sweet spot and the park and the parlour and the boardroom and the wellness sphere. That was all lovely, but it was the stadium seating that really was my favourite part.
I have to agree, Nicole. Yeah.
That's for the keynotes, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that was much, much better than last year.
Yeah. Any particular favourite keynote, Nicole?
Nigel Latter was really good with his humans being. The key takeaways were really, quite useful, I thought, which was keep your shit together. So, you know, even if you're losing your mind, just keep calm, keep it under control. Reduce friction. Zip it. Yeah. Reduce friction, and that was also a mental friction, was his point. Make things easy for your customers and your clients. So reduce friction was the second one, and make people's lives better. So he was talking about people as well, and he summed it up really succinctly with be kind, and that was the final part of it. But his was really good. But Lee Sales was also really good with her Any Ordinary Day, and she was talking about imposter syndrome, which I think quite a lot of us feel, so that was a really good session as well.
Yeah, she was definitely one of my favourites, I think. I just found her so inspirational. I must admit, obviously I'm from the UK and I wasn't too aware of her, but I found her so inspiring. And one of the things that she was kind of focusing on was the idea of kind of facing your fears, you know, working hard, being a genuine person. And I thought she was incredible. I loved hers.
That session, I missed a lot of the sessions that I wanted to go into. We were busy. From an exhibitor's perspective, it was, I think, one of the busiest that we've had, wouldn't you say, Jeff? But not crazy like it has been in years gone by. It's been kind of super hectic, whereas this year it was a bit more constant. And I think the layout of the hall was good, a little bit more open than it has been over past years. Yeah,
I mean, the feedback I got was definitely that there was some great sessions. I think the other standout one was Jordan Hartley-Smith on mental health, and that certainly struck a chord with me, because I certainly, you know, took a little bit of a dip after hearing about my Achilles. But I thought it was really good. Like some people said, you know, that the theme was quite dark, or, you know, but I think kudos to Xero for, you know, approaching some topics that are difficult to talk about. You know, sometimes you go to conferences and it's all about hyping people up, and, you know, everything's rosy colored, and you know, they touched on some difficult topics with some really solid messages. I think it is a challenge for us as exhibitors to find the time to get in to consume the content as well as man the stand. We're a bit fortunate that we have such a great team that helps support us, but I know that for some people, they just get stuck on the stand and they never get to see the sessions. For other people, like I know Hannah, you know, chose not to have a stand and to actually sort of roam around. I know Craig from Venn did the same. That was a different experience for them because they sort of like experienced Xerocon a different way. They had a bit more freedom to go and take in the sessions as well as mingle. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the challenges I think for exhibitors is that we kind of have to make a sacrifice in one side or the other.
Yeah.
One of the sessions I was a little bit disappointed that I missed out on was Craig Hudson's talk. I saw the opening keynote by Trent, and then I had to race back to the stand. So I missed Craig's, and the feedback that I heard about his session was fantastic. Did you guys get to see that?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, I saw it, and it was a very raw, personal story. It was a little bit confronting, but as Jeff said, you know, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, but it was done in a way that it wasn't overly depressing for the audience either. You heard some uncomfortable truths and some real life story, but it was told in a really good way. It was accessible and useful. It was a great session.
One comment that I've seen quite a bit in some of the social media groups and channels is it would have been great to have the sessions recorded. If those were made accessible later on for attendees, you know, for us, especially from the exhibiting perspective, but I guess also for those that weren't lucky enough to make it to Xerocon, that'd be quite a beneficial thing. But I guess, you know, Xero's got to think about you know, people paying to be at Xerocon versus those that get to consume the content for free. Elliot, did I see your fingernails are still black?
They are. I'd love to say that I trapped them in something, but I got a nice lady to paint them for me at Xerocon. Short of getting a file and actually taking the nail off itself, like it's not coming off.
But how did you get
stuff
black?
called nail polish remover?
I only saw pink, and pink doesn't work with my aesthetic, so I couldn't get my nails done.
This is
How did you get black?
I only wear black, so I just asked very nicely.
I didn't see it was a possibility because I would have, you know, black is better than pink.
The lady actually went into her own private stash and did it for me.
Oh, wow. You got special treatment.
What would be better there if I'd gone, no, I brought my own colour just in case. No, but sorry, to backtrack slightly, this is the thing, actually, I heard some really interesting stuff about Craig's, and I think a lot of people who didn't see it would be quite keen to sort of catch up, and I'm not quite sure what our official policy is on it, so I'd be keen to know if it's going to be available. But
your official policy is no. It was in the Facebook groups.
Yeah, I thought as much. Yeah, the interesting thing is for us from an ecosystem standpoint, during the keynotes is actually the perfect time for us to actually do our jobs. So to get around and chat to some of our partners and to understand how exhibitors are feeling, especially on that first day, to run around and make sure everyone's doing okay, everyone's happy and all this sort of stuff. And then, yeah, as a result, I saw Steve's opening keynote. I saw Kay Harding, I saw Patrick Frigo, and that was it, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm gonna have to get the crib notes off everybody afterwards.
So the recorded sessions.
I think that
Elliot.
it was really difficult. I mean, kudos to Xero for putting on some great sessions, but it really, even in the breakout sessions, it was difficult to pick which ones you wanted to go to, and you kind of had to like prioritize and sort of sacrifice the other ones. And so yeah, it'd be interesting to see what solutions they can come with. Like, I know I heard of like some of the larger firms that were sort of like breaking out in groups and sort of spreading out their team and then trying to relay information back and debrief and share content and information. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that evolves.
Well, that just goes to show that if you are an accountant or bookkeeper listening, you need to send as many people to Xerocon.
That's what we do. We invite our whole team every year, and we do try and get into different sessions. So we like to print out the agenda, and we play the highlighter race. Whoever highlights the session first, their colour wins. I've got pointy elbows, so you can't get it.
What, just talking about the agenda, what did everybody think of the Xerocon app this year? It was a bit different this year. It was a web application rather than a native app. How was that? How did that go?
I don't want to admit this.
I think it was fine.
I didn't know how to get onto it. It wasn't until one of the nice interns from marketing decided to show me how to use my smartphone that I realized that A, maybe I wasn't as good at this as I thought, and B, I'm definitely now over 30. There's a moment of like, oh, it's happening. I thought the app itself was pretty, the web app itself, was pretty decent, and I didn't really have any issues with it.
Yeah.
The issue that I found was that you couldn't search for other attendees. So I met some really nice people whose names escape me, but their faces I remember. And I'm like, well, they're from New Zealand. Their business is 3 initials. And you can't search for anyone in the app. And I was trying to Google them. But anyway, so it was only servicing people that attended the same sessions as you did or had something else in common with you. So it didn't give you couldn't scroll, not that you necessarily would, but you couldn't scroll through the 3,000 attendees to find the person you were looking for. It only gave you maybe 20 popped up in my app.
Okay,
I think in past years we were able to. I remember, I think I was in Melbourne where we were able to go up to that little booth and you tap and it would swap details. Yeah, that was really cool. You know, it was a bit more of a networking tool.
But these days, what are you going to do with that afterwards? You really just want to follow them on Twitter and then, you know, you're all good, you're friends after that. You're part of the hashtag community, forming your own community then.
Yes, very true. We've had a couple of comments come through as well. Ron mentioned, what about the Xero Blue nail polish? You're not towing the company line there, Elliot.
Well, they did. I was approached with a cheese grater this morning to see if they could get this off, but I can outrun them. It's fine. No, it's just never going to work with the Melbourne all black uniform, unfortunately. So I decided to go with just the black. I'm concerned that this is going to derail into more of a aesthetic choices of Elliot podcast than anything else.
Well, you didn't have the option. There was only pink. You couldn't have had Xero Blue, which I thought was an interesting. Who decided that there was only pink nail polish available?
Who did decide that?
Wasn't me.
I'm glad I'm not intimately involved with the planning of Xerocon.
Are you taking notes, Elliot, as we go?
I'm told this is recorded.
On the opposite side of the nail polish stand, we had the barber, and your hair's looking mighty fine there, Jeff. You got you're like the first haircut.
I was first in best dress. That's right, first in best dress. I saw the opportunity and I darted for it. I was the first one, so I knew it was going to be popular.
It was popular. I went up to the stand fairly late on day 2, and there was a foolscap book, 2 pages of names. There's 110 people that were in the line waiting to get the haircut. So yeah, it was pretty popular.
Did you get it done?
No, there's too many people in front of me.
I have a slight issue with that, is that they were using a foolscap book.
Yes, I do as well.
There is almost
there's an app for that. Yeah. And I spoke to a couple of people that said, I put my name down, but they never called me because there was names and phone numbers, but they weren't calling anyone. It was just like, whoever was there, you can go. So yeah, I think there's some room for improvement there. But those guys were cool. That was a local barbershop. I was chatting to the bloke when they were doing Jeff's hair. So that was a really good idea. Not something I've ever seen before in any kind of conference.
It sounds like what they need is some kind of app expert to go in and help modernize their business using technology.
Where would you find such a thing? Anyone specializing in barbers? Jeff?
Yeah, well, we do salons, definitely.
There you go.
Come across a few.
So we're talking about sessions, speakers and sessions. What was the best? Xerocon's always known for its events, for the parties that go on. I think the parties were a little bit more subdued this year than they have been. But what was the best supporting event that you might have attended?
Controlled, Clinton.
Controlled, right? So it was less to choose from, shall we say, this year. I remember in past years there's been so many different options that have been on. It's been hard to make a decision, but of the events that were on, what did we see?
So I really liked Practice Ignition's pre-con, just because it's a good way to kind of meet with everyone, catch up ahead of the chaos that is Xerocon, because I mean there's so much going on at Xerocon, there's so many people you want to speak to, so the likelihood of you being able to speak to everyone at Xerocon is quite small. So there's always a fun time. So and obviously the wrap party was then a good way to then end everything as well.
Yeah, that wrap party last year was good. I'm allergic to nightclubs, so Cloudland maybe didn't quite gel with me last year, but this year I thought was fantastic. Like garden party atmosphere. Really
it was amazing, and the views were just insane. Yeah.
No, I think we were very lucky with the weather. It was beautiful weather. I'm here rugged up. It's cooled down and back in Sydney. The wind's up. It's blowing straight off the snow. So it was nice to have a bit of nice weather. And I think if we had rain on the night or it was a bit cooler, it could have been a different story. But yeah, Brisbane absolutely nailed it.
Yeah. There's a lady on the
that location was awesome.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Really cool. Michelle mentioned Heather Smith's Cloud Meetup. So
that was definitely the highlight for me. And the people that attended were really, really lucky because they got to hear me speak. Yeah.
We did.
I'm very sad that I missed that event. How did it go, Nicole?
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Can I just say wonderful? But her event, I went last year for the first time, and it's about apps. So they have each of the apps or a bunch of apps get about 5 minutes to present, and they have to talk about what problem they're solving, where they work really well or what industries they're suitable for, and where they don't work, what industries are not suitable for them. And where they don't work is just as valuable as where they do work. And that last year was quite a highlight for us of going along to see. And normally the salespeople from the app stands will be there demonstrating their own product. But this year, a couple of the apps weren't able to come. And so Heather asked end users to demonstrate the apps. And so that's what I got to do. I was speaking about MinuteDoc. And so I've never presented about an app before, and making the slides and summarizing it all inside of 5 minutes was quite hard. So it was a great learning as well as hearing all the other people. And I definitely recommend getting along to her event next year if you can. Lots of apps there, lots of people from the industry. I think there was 200 people, so lots of people to speak to, but not overwhelmingly large as you then move into the big event. But I'd also say honourable mentions for the pre-con party. Who doesn't love a party?
Yeah.
And we also went to the Receipt Bank breakfast on the second morning, and it had Tim Hoopman speaking about mental health, and it had Heather Smith speaking again, and that was a really great event as well.
Yeah, I was really sorry that we had to miss that as well, but unfortunately I was just getting out of the hospital. So,
any excuse.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I know. Yeah, very disappointed, but I'm glad to hear that it went well, and I'm glad to see that events like that are happening, and there's lots of different circles to gather information, because there's just an unlimited amount of information to consume out there. And I also think that Xerocon is starting to evolve into it's not just about the learnings and the networking that you meet at the actual exhibition. It's exhibition hall. It's what you do before and after. We went to the Go Cardless event, which was sponsored by what's the other company?
The
Go Cardless and The Gap. Yes, and I had no idea who The Gap was, and apparently they had been exhibiting for 5 years previous. And they chose to use that as their way to network. And I think it was beneficial for them. I think, they were all getting out and sort of engaging with people. And I had a good conversation with one of their account managers. And for me, I think that was really useful to, be able to go out and network in different environments, not just limited to the exhibition hall.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was quite a few new apps and add-ons that were in the exhibitors hall as well. It was good to get a chance to have a talk to.
Yeah.
Did you come across, Jeff?
Well, first of all, I think it was interesting and was just validation. How many payment providers were there?
Yeah.
There was just so many of them, right? They were just out in force. And wondering, curious show of hands of our partners who actually got a chance to go out and sort of use that as an opportunity to do some of their groundwork and learn about them. It was interesting. One of the ones I looked at was ChargeBee, which was it took a little while to get my head around. I might bastardize this, but apparently they are like a hub for payment platforms. So you can choose the payment platform of your choice in a specific region, and they are like a hub that allows you to plug in these different payment processors to streamline the way that you do subscription. So there was a thread, I think in Heather's group, around Go Cardless, and we spoke about Go Cardless being used in different countries, and there was a bit of confusion around that. You can't actually use one Go Cardless account to take payments internationally. They're sort of segmented by geographical location and by currency. And I thought that ChargeBee might be a solution to that, because you could choose a payment processor in each respective country, but use ChargeBee as a hub to link them together and put them into one bank account. And they also do things like pro rata. So like, if you're managing subscriptions and you need to be able to pro rata fees because of, changes in plans, etc., they do those type of things. So that was really interesting for me. Another one that we looked at was Prospect CRM, sorry. And what they are is a CRM for outbound sales that allow you to integrate to IMS platforms like Unleashed, Sin7, TradeGecko, and soon to be Deer. So obviously that caught our eye. And one of the problems that they said they could solve, which we have to sort of test, is many of these inventory management systems have a ceiling as to how many products they can handle well, which is usually capped around 50,000 products. Interestingly, I've had about 6 companies approach me with databases of 100,000 to 500,000 products. And so what Prospect CRM says they can do is they can house a catalog of, let's say, 500,000 products in the CRM, and then selectively, as orders are confirmed, push those across to the inventory management system. So the IMS system can be fairly lightweight, but still have the full catalog accessible for quoting purposes. So those were 2 that were standouts for me.
For me, it was great to catch up with Anna Cochran again. Haven't seen Anna for a few years, maybe a couple of years. Seems like a lifetime. But Anna filled us in on Lightyear, and that sounded like a very interesting solution that I think could be quite useful within the trades and construction space, with the whole way it's managing purchasing and pricing, catalog pricing, and statement and pulling in statements. And yeah, it's a whole nother space that I need to do a bit more research into, and something that I think we're going to see a bit of movement on integrations with our job and project management systems that we work with, because there's this whole issue around things like Receipt Bank or HubDoc that are feeding supplier invoices straight into Xero, but that information's not going into the job or the project management system for job costing purposes. So there's this real kind of disconnect about automation, data stripping and data automation is fantastic, but we need the information going to the right places. So it was good to talk to Anna and the Lightyear team about how what they're doing, and I think we're going to see a few changes in the way that these functions are incorporated into the various systems because of the direct feeds and integrations into Xero. So that was probably my biggest takeaway.
It's always lovely to see.
Any other standouts?
I liked the look of Expert. That one looked really interesting. To get some more information from them. I've heard from a few people that are in the beta testing, so that one did look really interesting for us. Checking ABNs are valid, because the one where everyone was using the Bunnings ABN is a bit of an issue. So keeping an eye on that would be really helpful for us and our clients.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I really like, they presented at Heather Smith's Cloud App Meetup, as well as Ada. They're on Startup Alley, and I just found them fascinating, because essentially I think they're like a digital assistant, and they connect lots of different apps and then enable you to kind of access information from all those apps via their platform. And they're still very new, which is why they're in Startup Alley. But I just I found that fascinating, and I thought that's got some real I think it's amazing. Yeah.
I liked that they had a similar app there called Chatter, which did a sort of similar thing.
Yeah.
Really interesting. The one for me would have been, I think I really liked Clarity. They come over from Canada. I think what they were offering was a really interesting tool to start and spur on the conversation around advisory, not necessarily app advisory, but for accountants and bookkeepers to be able to sort of talk to their clients it'll draw information in and make sort of suggestions and analysis. It sort of formulates for want of a better word, sort of reformulate a business plan or an advanced business plan for a company that's already running, and then it can offer sort of advisory talking points and things that people could start looking into for their business, which I thought, we are constantly banging on about how important advisory is. If we can offer some kind of tool which helps to start the conversation, that's a bonus as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's something we talk about in our app advisory camps. We're talking all about having those conversations and starting those conversations with the client. So if that's something that helps initiate that, then yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Jeff.
I think it's interesting because when you look at the ones that stood out in your guys' eyes, so Expert, Aider, Chatter, and so what's the other one, Elliot, that you mentioned?
It's called Clarity.
Clarity. All four of those are examples of how artificial intelligence, they're all based on artificial intelligence. So it's they're all starting to sculpt and define how we take this concept, all this information and data, and then provide actionable insights. And so I think we're all starting to see the direction that it's headed. But like we've been involved with Aider for over a year now already, and helping them because they're connecting to a lot of the apps that we support. And the Expert definitely has flown across my radar and looking to engage with them. And I think it's interesting to see that these products are on the cusp of the new direction and the new behavior that's coming, and that we can sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it will be interesting to keep our eyes on them to see when the actual adoption of these products starts to hit mainstream, because I think with AI, everybody's still kind of struggling to understand, well, how is it going to affect my life? Like how is it going to shift the way that I work, or how is it going to shift the way that I interact with the data? And they're trying to introduce new tools, like for example, Aider is relying quite heavily on voice command as well. You know, because you're starting to see voice command pop up with things like Alexa and with Siri. And they're saying, you know, like imagine you're driving in a car, and you know that's the one time when you're driving that you're not going to use the typical input device, which is a keyboard, which is restrictive and unsafe and illegal, of course. But in the car, there's this time when you're driving when, as a business owner, if you could receive actionable insights via voice prompt to know what's happening in your business, that could be a really useful tool. The thing is, we haven't really come over that little hump of adoption where that is actually acceptable. Like I use Alexa at home, but for basic things like asking what the weather is, or volume up, volume down, those type of things, real simple actionable items. But real complex tasks, I think it's still sort of at the very beginning of the technology and how we're going to interact with it.
Yeah. But I do think, you know, I had a conversation with one of our partners that he mentioned he's quite advanced and quite a long way down his app advisory journey, and he was talking about the first place that he goes is Startup Alley whenever he comes to Xerocon, because that's the cutting edge. You know, that's the new stuff that's coming out. That's the tools that are going to be potentially used in 3 or 4 or 5 years time. So we're very lucky that we get access to this stuff as a community and as a group and as partners with Xero, because this is leading the world when it comes to the use of this kind of stuff in business. So I think we maybe forget that. We take it for granted that we're a part of this space, but it really is the leading edge of this type of technology usage in business.
Yeah, we hear that.
I think Expert could be. I think Expert has some. What's interesting about it is it might be a really good tool for advisors to help them provide that advisory service, because what it's doing is it's trying to take that data and provide some actionable insights that could be used as, an evolutionary way of presenting those advisory services. I'd love to reach out to our community to get their take on it. We might ask a poll to find out if anybody's interested in Expert doing a one-off webinar. I know that was a request that we got in our cert camps, is that people wanted to see more app spotlights organized. So we might reach out and do that and see if, because from our point of view, we're not financial advisors, so we're really looking at our partners to sort of fill that role. And I think there's an opportunity for our partners to look at tools that will allow them to provide better advisory services in a more innovative way.
Very good first cab off the rank for those app spotlights, Jeff. And completely missed the opportunity to open with a little bit of housekeeping about Zoom and the fact that this is an interactive Cloudcast webinar. So, and I completely missed the fact that I had the Q&A window hiding behind our other window. So we've had a couple of questions that have come through, which I wasn't ignoring. I just completely missed them. And if anybody else has questions, I know there's been a few things that have been put into the chat box, but we have the Q&A tool as well. So Renee Bishop mentioned she'd love to rewatch some of the keynote speaker presentations. Is there any way to get a recording? I know we touched on that, but just to confirm, there was no formal recording done that's going to be distributed by Xero. Is that right, Elliot?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. So I know there are a couple of bootleg versions getting around on the internet of different sessions.
Clinton, have you been Facebook Living again?
Not me, mate. Hands on heads. And we had Tanya. Tanya asked the question: any new bells and whistles with Xero announced? So any standout announcements there that anyone can talk about?
Standout announcement for me by far and away, I'm almost contractually obligated to push this actually, is single sign-on, single sign-up with Xero. So now, actually two good things there. One, you can go onto the marketplace now and look at apps, and you can sign up to those apps and sign into those apps using Xero. So just in the same way that you might go onto another website and it might say sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook, sign up with Facebook, whatever, you can now do the same thing with Xero on selected apps, and we're rolling it out to more and more of them. So that actually takes away a lot of the work of signing up for them, and it also starts the integration process almost immediately, so that information is passing backwards and forwards at just a touch of a button, rather than having to go through, fill out email addresses, fill out names, fill out new passwords, all these sort of forms. But now you can click, boom, straight in. It's really awesome. Actually, genuinely really cool. And the second really big thing for me from that was that if you are an advisor and you're logged into one of your customers' businesses, you can go into the Xero marketplace, and if there's a particular app that you think they should be using, you can click a switch in that app, a little switch button that says recommend this app. And then when the client goes back in, you can advise them to jump on the marketplace and have a look, and it'll show them, first of all, those apps that you've recommended, and say, your advisor, XY advisory service, has recommended these apps to you. And you can check them out, take a look at them, and potentially sign in with one click. So really, really awesome push for ecosystem stuff there.
Yeah.
Was that an announcement that was made in Luke Holdsworth? Nick Holdsworth. Yeah. Sorry, Luke.
That's all right.
Nick Holdsworth's presentation.
It was, yeah.
I didn't catch it. So that is something that is actioned by the advisor choosing the app that they want to recommend. I heard that it was more like a Netflix thing, where it was just going to be automated, and so we think you like this, that sort of thing.
So that's already begun. That actually was rolled out a while ago, this sort of recommended apps, and that's only going to get better and better as more sort of information and I guess as more sort of technology gets put towards that process. We already do advise on apps to some degree using industry code and a couple of other things, but obviously as the platform evolves, the opportunity to recommend not even just appropriate apps, but sort of the right app is going to grow. And it's going to really make it a lot easier when you start to have advisory conversations with your clients.
I actually thought I think the better app or the better announcement on Xero was alerts on junior birthdays. That was big news when you have to pay them extra money and you forget that it's their birthday. So that alert coming up, I'm not sure when it's going to drop exactly, but that was huge big news. And the simple cash flow, 30-day cash flow reporting, that was the big news for us as well. I know, Elliot, your news was really exciting too. But the other bits were a little bit more exciting.
Can you tell I've not got an accounting background?
I can actually, now that you mention it.
Yeah, my bank account shows it.
I think another announcement was the Stripe feed integration.
Yeah.
So I touched on the reconciliation issue in the advanced camp, and so it appears that they've addressed that, and that's going to be an improvement moving forward, which is really positive.
But only for Stripe. It doesn't solve the problem with any of the other integrations yet.
No.
More to come.
Definitely not.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's paving a way. It's showing what can be done, and it's something that the other integrations can aspire to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you picked up, Hannah? Any Xero announcements?
Yeah, so I was in the, it was Craig Walker, I think was one of his talk on cash flow is king, where he announced the Stripe integration. Correct. So yeah, that was a session that I really enjoyed actually. Yeah, I mean the focus a lot of kind of Xerocon focus was on cash flow, which particularly for Chase is obviously hugely relevant. Like late payments is a massive issue, and as Craig was saying, there's definitely not enough kind of conversation about it, not enough focus on that. And so also, like I agree with you, Elliot, kind of the ability for advisors, accountants to recommend apps. I mean, that's amazing because it just removes that friction, streamlines the whole process. They don't have, rather than having to kind of book in the calls and have those conversations, they their clients can just look and say, okay, this is my accountant has advised we use Chaser or we use data or whatever it is, and kind of take it from there. So just going to make it so much easier. So amazing, yeah.
I guess I need, as a cloud integrator, I need to question not the suitability, but the criteria that's going into the recommendation that's being made, and whether or not that's taking into account all of the specific things that a business needs. So I think, like anything, it needs to be maybe taken with a little bit of a grain of salt and a bit of assessment to assess it and make sure that it is the right recommendation. Do you know what criteria are being assessed for that recommendation to be made, Elliot?
No, I'm sorry, mate. You're breaking up a little bit on my end. I didn't catch that.
Oh, really? Just wondering if you know what the criteria are that are going into the apps being recommended for a particular business.
No, I don't actually. I would be able to get that out in a bit more detail. There'll be a few different factors involved. For accountants and bookkeepers recommending, though, it's a matter of sort of, for want of a better word, a manual process, but it's more of an active recommendation. But for the sort of passive recommendation, I think there'll be a number of things in there like industry codes, etc. But I'd need to get their full details. But look, don't worry, we're not trying to do you out of a job.
No, I think my input on that is that I think if it at least serves the purpose for the business owner to know that there are apps out there that they should be looking at and that they're somewhat curated. Like if you go to the iTunes store on your iPad, you're not going to go through the millions of apps that are out there. You kind of look at the ones that are highlighted and that are, best in class or featured. And if there's a few that Xero can put forward or their advisor can put forward, I think people are becoming more savvy to the fact that choosing an app isn't just as simple as choosing an industry code. There's so many more elements, it's time frame, budget, what are they coming from, what are their challenges, how open are they to change, lots of several human factors that are incorporated. Otherwise, if, I think, we've been in the cloud integrator space for nearly, 9 years, and there aren't many of us around. Right? I mean, there should be a lot more cloud integrators than there are, but the reality is it's still a very specialized service. There's going to be lots of advisors that will start doing that confidently and learning their space and growing their footprint of what they're confident in recommending. But as they start to do that, they'll start to realize that that comes with a lot of responsibility as well, and they're going to only recommend apps that they're confident in recommending. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a question that's come through from Natasha. I might need a bit more clarification on this one, but can you tell us a bit more about the new Xero app you mentioned earlier? I don't know that we spoke about a Xero app, did we?
Was that the Xerocon web app, maybe?
Yeah, it might have been it. Yeah. So we're talking about the fact that this year, or in past years, with Xerocon, there's been an actual app we've been able to download from the App Store. Whereas this year it was just a web browser. We accessed the Xerocon app via a web browser link. It was all online, so it wasn't an app we downloaded from the App Store. So I don't know if that answers the question, Natasha. Maybe just give us a little bit more insight if there was something else that we mentioned, but I think that might be it. So we still got a little bit of time. So there was lots of information. There was lots of new learnings. There was lots of new apps. How do we make the most of all of this new info? Like how do you curate the the knowledge that we take away from events like this and actually execute on things. I know Trent spoke about last year his one big thing that he mentioned. Just pick one big thing and make sure you execute on it. How do we make sure that we actually do something with this information that we've taken away from such a massive few days?
Well, interestingly, today is Swap Ideas Day. And I guess swapping ideas is a good way to cement the information. If you're sharing with someone else and if you're summarising it all down into an easily understood format for someone who wasn't there to understand, then taking that time will help you to learn and remember and really cement the information that you took out of it. There's lots of Facebook sharing about the information as well. And in the Facebook groups, there is the opportunity to post your one big thing that you're going to do this year off the back of it. That post has gone up again this year, so you can share with everybody else what it is that you're going to do. But definitely sharing the information with others will help cement it for you.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, for me, probably the biggest takeaway, or I guess difference in this Xerocon from previous Xerocon, so this is my 7th Xerocon, is that it really felt like in previous years we always had a stand and we were an exhibitor, but this was the first time that after creating CIP where I really felt like we've now started our own little community, and we are newbies when it comes to that. I know, Nicole, you're part of many communities, but for us, it was validation to me that what we have started on with CIP was really the right direction. Given that community was a big theme at Xerocon, it was something that we decided to do after the growth session that Xero invited us to. We didn't quite know, and yeah, we're still figuring it out, but I was very proud that we had lots of our partners come and visit us, and they felt like our stand was a home away from home or a home within the Xero community, and really started to feel that community and that we belong to something. And we've always been, the cloud integrators have always been the black sheep of the Xero community, and now we really feel like, yeah, we've got something, we're creating something unique, and we're on the right path. So for me, that was really special, and it really made me feel like this Xerocon was different from any other one.
I agree, Jeff. Having a few technical issues there, Hannah.
Yeah, my internet keeps dropping out. I'm sorry.
Quick, get her opinion on takeaways before it drops out again.
How are you going to make the most of the information that you've picked up from the massive few days that we had?
Yeah, I was here alone, so I think the main thing I'm going to do when I get back is just give a talk to the team on my main learnings, people who weren't fortunate enough to be there, I met a lot of other apps, a lot of contacts. So I think my tip as well for kind of if you are having conversations with lots of different apps is to kind of just, if you're anything like me, I make a lot of notes. Is just to kind of review your notes and look at your clients and see which apps would work best with those clients. If you've got a client who has a issue with getting paid on time, then obviously Chaser. If they need help with their cash flow, then direct them to the ones that you've kind of you've met. But I think for me personally, yeah, kind of going back to the team and just recapping everything that I learned during Xerocon. Yeah.
Awesome. And our final subject for today is with so many people that attend Xerocon, what do we have? What was the final number, Elliot? 2,400? 2,300, 2,400?
Yeah, something around that. I'll be honest with you, I've been off at 6, so we've caught up on the numbers thing that we did yesterday, so I assume it's around that, yes.
Too much KFC on Friday, mate.
That's it, I'm still struggling.
With all of these new people, especially as an exhibitor, we speak to so many people. We got the contact details of so many people. How do we follow up with all of these new contacts? Nicole, you would have met a million people because you'd love to talk.
But I would say if you're in the Facebook groups, there's heaps of community going on there. So that's definitely a great way to talk to people. You'll find probably a lot of the people that were at Xerocon are in the groups already. But for us now, a lot of it's on Twitter. You just follow the people that you met on Twitter, and it's really easy to, if they post something, to start the conversation off their post, and everyone's posting their highlights from Xerocon, so it's really easy to connect that way. Heather Smith has asked people to share their blog post.
Yes.
So I guess there's two things. You can connect with them because you've seen the link to the blog, but also reading their blog post they'll be highlighting their highlights, which will then help you remembering all the stuff that you saw and give you tips on the stuff that you missed out on because the sessions were running concurrently. There's LinkedIn groups. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of those, but also in real life, there'll be the Xero Refresh series coming out. So you'll be able to talk to people that were there that are in your area and people that weren't there that are in your area. So those real life groups are really important as well, because now we work online almost constantly. Being able to talk to real humans is nice and a bit of a luxury. It's a great opportunity there as well.
Yeah.
I'll just say as well, if you're keen to sort of continue the conversation, now is a really good time to reach out to your account manager, senior account manager, whoever it is you're dealing with at Xero. Talk about if you're looking to get something together as like a post Xerocon meetup, if you're looking to arrange something like that, get us involved. I'm sure they'd be keen to sort of turn up, have a chat, and help sort of spread the message and see what people thought. So that'd be really, I'm sure, a cool opportunity for us all.
That's a really good point. And it's probably something that a lot of people haven't thought about before. So yeah, that's something we should take on board.
Clinton, Jeffrey, we can hang out.
Sounds good. Do I have to paint my nails?
Again, yeah.
I guess taking time out of the business which was almost a week last week, is a big commitment. So maybe a meetup over the next couple of weeks is probably a little bit out of the question.
Yeah.
But maybe in a month's time, maybe pre-Christmas, the Xero Refresh events like Nicole mentioned. Yeah, lots of opportunities. But just talking about the social media piece, Yasmin made mention, Yasmin that runs our media for Tradiepad and for CloudIntegration.Partners, she mentioned that there was a lot more activity on Instagram this year than there ever has been in the past. So still a lot on Twitter. Twitter's still the primary channel that most people are using, but a lot more on Instagram than there ever has been. And I guess maybe that's a little bit to point to the spectacle that Xero put together, and the fact that photos, the vert ramp, the beautiful colours of the graffiti wall, the skateboards that were being painted. There's so much visual stuff out there, and Instagram's a great platform for getting that stuff out there. So I didn't have a look at the Instagram posts that were going out there, but there's a lot of tradies on Instagram, so they like to show off their work. But yeah, certainly it's not something I would have associated with Xerocon, that's for sure.
Well, next year we'll have Xerocon TikTok, which I believe is what all the kids are using these days. See how little I actually do understand. It's just, I believe the children are using this. Okay.
Children, the youth.
That's it. One thing I was going to say though, and you kind of made mention of it, is that, and I have to sort of do this almost housekeeping on our side of things. Obviously, everyone's just taken minimum sort of 2 days out of the business. For a lot of people, more like 5. I got back to 110 emails. Everybody's got tons of stuff they got to catch up on. One thing we recommended to our app partners to do, and the way to manage their communications, is that they'll probably reach out to you over this week. They'll say, hey, they'll say, look, we understand it's busy. We'll catch up with you down the track. If you've gone and taken the time at Xerocon to talk to one of the app partners and to discuss their business and discuss how it's going to fit in with your own or your clients, don't lose that momentum. It's really tricky, I understand, to sort of then manage everything when you come back. What I would do is I'd make a recommendation that as they come through, make a note of the people that have reached out to you or the ones that you spoke to, and then just tick them off and sort of say, okay, they've reached out. And then in a couple of weeks, start making a plan to sort of say, okay, well, now it's time to use some of this stuff and to take these conversations further. Because otherwise what you've done is you've gone there and you spent 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours talking to app partners. And then if you never speak to them again, that's 4 hours that you could have been watching the skate ramp or, decorating a board or eating donuts. Realistically, you might have wasted that time. But do make sure that you're catching up with them again, because if you're interested, there's a chance that there's a good reason for that. So I understand you're going to have a lot of emails from people saying, lovely to catch up with you at Xerocon, would love to show you this, love to show you that, love to show you a webinar. Even if you only get 20 minutes down the track, to pop them an email back and say, hey, it's very busy right now, but maybe next week, let's catch up a bit further. There's going to be some benefit to you, definitely.
Yeah, good advice.
Very good advice. Yes, it's very easy to go back into the normal day-to-day routines once you get back.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like watching a motivational speaker and going, I'm going to do that. And then it's Friday afternoon. So everything just falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I know quite a few apps will probably be doing different like events and webinars, like, similar to this and things like that. So if you can spare the time to jump on board and watch them, then definitely do, because as you said, like, it keeps the momentum going. Try and keep up with it for as long as you can. Even though I know everyone will have a very full inbox because everyone's going to be wanting to speak to you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's close off with our one big takeaway from Xerocon. Closing comments. Who wants to go first?
Can I preempt yours? Is it going to be go to CloudIntegration.Partners cert camps?
No, it wasn't. That's a really good idea.
Very good idea.
There's actually a comment in there, Quentin, about the advanced class conflicts with Account Tech Live. Do you want to talk about that quickly before we do the wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. So Michelle's made the comment about our advanced class, the Cloud Integration Partners Advanced App Advisor Advanced course conflicts with the Account Tech Live event, which is on the 12th and 13th. Now, Account Tech Live is in Melbourne, and we were aware of it, and we actually changed our dates around it to make sure that our Melbourne event wasn't happening on the same weekend or same week, same days as Account Tech Live. But I think it's our Sydney event is coinciding with those dates. Is that right, Jeff? I think it was Sydney or Brisbane. Sydney. So it's our Sydney event, which is our Sydney event, which is the 12th and 13th. So you're right, Michelle. It is conflicting with Account Tech Live, and it's something. Unfortunately, it's something that Michelle's going to be in Melbourne. We might have to. We might have to go back to Brisbane. A little bit more of a. Yeah. Well, we are definitely going back to Brisbane, but it's a different date. We might have to have a bit of a talk internally about that one and see how much of an impact that's going to make, because I know Account Tech Live is a very good event. I guess there will be a lot of people from Sydney that will be travelling to it, Sydney and Brisbane and all over Australia. It's something that we need to consider 100%. So thanks for bringing that to our attention.
What we might do is run a poll in Mighty Networks to see, because Advanced Camp obviously only affects our intro camp attendees. So we can reach out to them and raise a poll and see what their preference is. So
yeah, cool. We'll take that one. We'll take that one to take that one offline. So takeaways. Any takeaways?
I'll put my 2 cents.
We all went at once.
My takeaway is great to see artificial intelligence apps on the verge, on the horizon. But still incorporating in the human element, that, we're starting to understand it better, and that technology is going to serve us as humans, and that community is the way forward. It certainly has changed the way that I look at how we fit in with the Xero ecosystem, and that we're going to continue to progress and grow our community.
Yeah, I think community definitely was one of the biggest takeaways. It was just a really good reminder of kind of the fact that everyone here is working towards the same end goal, which is to look after small businesses, to help small businesses thrive. And that kind of like focus on community there was amazing. And I think, whether you're using something like Xero to streamline processes, working with bookkeepers like Nicole to kind of help your clients achieve, help a small business achieve their goals, or working with an app like Chaser. Ultimately, I think my biggest takeaway is the fact that we are all here for the same reason, which was just a really nice kind of theme, I think.
Yeah, community was a great theme, because this was our 7th Xerocon that we've been to, and the first few, the content was really, really important. We've been in business for 22 years, so obviously we had to use other products prior to Xero being a thing. And so the first few, we really were changing our mindset and just seeing, apps are a thing we never knew. And so now that we've done sort of all of that stuff at the Xerocons and we've seen all of that, the community becomes a lot more important, and that's probably more why you're going now. Who can I connect with and who can I support? It's sort of a two-way street. There are people that are further along than us that are doing better than us, and we want to R&D then rip off and duplicate some of their great ideas, but the people coming behind as well, and we've got things that we can offer them, where it went wrong for us, the things that we would, if we had our time again, not have done. And that's quite useful for other people that are coming behind us. So definitely community was really big for us this year. It was a very timely theme.
Yeah.
I think I'd be just sort of parroting the same sort of thing realistically, but I want to go slightly left field and say, hearing about Craig's talks and thinking about the network of people that are there that know each other through Xerocon and the way that our communities have come together, both, apps in our space and the accountants and bookkeepers and stuff like that. I think that what's really cool is that there are people out there that through the community of Xero, through whether it's through their accountant and bookkeeper and through using the software and stuff like that, they've managed to do things like save their businesses, etc., and improve their businesses. Someone actually said to us the other week that Xero saved their marriage, which I thought, like, as a bloody full stop on the community matters kind of thing, was a really awesome thing to hear. And what I love about Xerocon is all these people coming together, and realistically, we work in a fairly competitive space. There are apps out there that compete with each other. There are accountants and bookkeepers out there that compete with each other. Cloud integrators compete with each other. Everybody comes to Xerocon and they just get on and they just have a real good time. And I think that's a really awesome thing. And it really is a community. And it's a community that gets shit done, if you'll excuse the pun. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd reiterate the whole community piece. I like Jeff said, I loved this year that we had our community, our group of people around us. It's kind of like Jeff said, it was the home away from home, and it was great to connect with everybody again. But the overwhelming thing for me was the emphasis on app advisory. So I know it's been mentioned in previous years, but it's kind of really a thing now. It's something that's the Kay spoke about. It's something that Patrick spoke about, and I think it's something that people are starting to really get. And the fact that it is a community of app advisory. There's different levels of app advisory and different specializations in app advisory. And like you said, Elliot, there's enough out there for all of us. And it's our job to work together with each other to provide the solutions for our clients. So I guess it's the combination of what all of you guys have said around community and app advisory, bringing that together for the greater good of our customers. And that's what Xerocon's really done is bring us together to really pull that rope in the same direction. Mm-hmm. And I've got one other, and I mentioned this in our community mining networks, that it's okay to drop the F-bomb 38 times in a presentation.
I've been saying this for years and no one buys it.
Maybe you need to have spiders on your face at the same time, Elliot.
I will say it 38 times if that happens, though.
Awesome. All right, very good. Thank you, everybody. We're bang on time, a couple of minutes late, but that was that was a great discussion. It was good to have everybody's different perspectives, from attendees, exhibitors, Xero folk. I think it was that was a great opportunity to share our notes that we took over the few days, and thank you for everybody that attended and coming along and providing your input in the chat. So thank you, everyone. Looking forward to the next year. And I think I mentioned in one of the groups, Nicole, I think we should have Xerocon every month.
I'm totally on board with this. There's so much going on.
It's quite a bit of work. Like, I appreciate the hubris, but it's a lot goes into it.
I can whip it up.
Nicole, you bring the marshmallows, I'll bring the graham crackers.
Okay, let's do this.
And Robin in Canada. Wow. So Robin Malcolm said, thanks for the fun session. Nothing like a little bedtime Zoom sesh for us. You're all just awesome. That's awesome. Thanks, Robin. That's unreal. All right. Thanks, everyone. Back to work now.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Cheers.
Bye. Bye.